When there are young boys and young girls before puberty, they sound pretty much alike. Young boys sound a little different because they learn culturally to express themselves differently and to try to get as much depth by mimicking their fathers as they can out of their voice. But it's not much more. It's just by really working with the muscles and getting a little bit. It's when puberty hits that the voices take a different turn. The boy's voice will break. And when it breaks, it'll vacillate very quickly, shift from high to low, from sounding like a kid to sounding like a man. Why? Because the voice box right here is called a resonant chamber. And that resonant chamber is your Adam's apple area. That larynx is actually a place where when the vocal cords vibrate, it creates the sound modulation inside. All the different vibrations mix together and create harmonics. Now, a male voice that is at the same pitch, the same tone as a female voice sounds differently. Why does it sound differently? Because the male voice has more low-end harmonics. Just like if you take a violin and play a note, and you take a cello and play a note, okay, the cello is going to sound deeper and have deeper low-end harmonics because it has a larger chamber for the vibration. So that's what happens when a boy gets older, is that his voice box starts to grow larger, but he's only used to using his muscles as would be appropriate for the small voice box, just like a woman would or a girl would. A woman's voice box gets a little bit larger, so she picks up a few of the highest low-end harmonics to make her sound not quite like a child, most women, because their voice box is a little bit larger, but boys' voice box gets real big real fast as soon as the testosterone hits. That's why for female to male transsexuals, they don't have to worry about voice. They just get injected with the testosterone, and their voice box starts to grow. And as soon as it gets big, their voice breaks, and boom, they got that lower register. Now, when a boy's voice breaks, he doesn't lose the high register. It's just that he's speaking high because that's where his muscles are comfortably contracted. That would be normal for the lower voice box. But culturally, he wants to get the lower voice. He works with the lower voice. He ends up letting himself slip into the lower voice. It becomes more comfortable for him to do, and his muscles then train themselves to only do the lower voice, okay? As a result, he then has the low harmonics. He hasn't lost the potential to have a female voice again. He's just let his muscles relax to use the full capacity of what he is now given by virtue of the testosterone. So the real key is to retrain your muscles to be able to contract to the way they were before your voice broke, so that you can once again clamp down in such a way that you're only using half of the resonant chamber, only letting half of it vibrate. Now here's an example. When I hold the top and the bottom of my larynx, my Adam's apple area, you find on you it's where all that cartilage is. If you want to do it right now, that's fine if nobody's around. Hold the top and the bottom, and if you speak in your normal male speaking voice, you'll find that both the top and the bottom will vibrate pretty much equally as you talk in your normal voice. However, when you go into falsetto, you clamp down all over the place, all at once, because that's what you've learned to do with the lower voice, is either let it all out or clamp it all down. So if you clamp it down, then you end up with falsetto. Musketeers, arise! Okay? Now if I talked to you like that and said, hi, I'm Melody Ann Phillips, and I have this tape-on voice, nobody would really be very interested in it because it sounds very fake. Falsetto is available to both men and women, and what it means is clamping all vibrations so you get no harmonics at all. All you get is the pure tone of the vocal cords vibrating. Now, men cannot hold that very low. That's why they always speak in a high-pitched falsetto voice. Women can speak in a lower-pitched falsetto voice because they have that smaller area to clamp down on anyway. But when I'm speaking now in a way that sounds a lot more naturally female, is I've learned to clamp down on the top but let the bottom stay loose and free. And as a result, if I'm talking now, there's no vibration at the top, but there is vibration as much as normal on the bottom. Hold on, I can't read that from here.
Prove you can still go deep.
Prove I can still go deep, okay? Escape is not his plan. I'm James Stewart, and by the time I get to Phoenix, it won't be there anymore.
Actually,
Okay.
it
Yes?
sounded like a woman doing James Stewart.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Maybe I can do Dave down here somewhere. I don't know. If you do this for years, you're going to get stuck like this. But the nice thing about it is that if you do it on and off, you can turn it on and off like a switch. So if you're a cross-dresser, you can learn this voice, and for like 2 or 3 years after I first learned it, I was able to just flip in and out, and I would amuse my friends and stun my neighbors by being able to go into one word and another word, one sentence and another sentence. I would even take a sentence and alternate words between male and female voice, okay? But again, just like a boy will learn to do it and will forget how to do it, the muscles will forget, or will weaken, and will no longer be able to do the high clamping down the way he did when he sounded more like a girl. Same thing if you're a professional transsexual and you use this voice. Don't try this at home. No, if you, we are professionals, and you do this, then if you clamp down on the top, then eventually you won't be able to let it loose without really working at it, because the muscles no longer go that way naturally. But it takes years of constantly using the voice and not using the male voice anymore.
And if you clamp down and you suddenly wake up on the floor, maybe an hour later, don't squeeze that tight
Why
again.
so hard? Right. That's an important thing that Teresa brings up, though, seriously, is that when you first do this, it's very hard on the muscles to do it because they're not used to it, and you can really permanently damage your voice, your vocal cords, and even eliminate any chance that you would have of ever developing a wonderful female voice if you are too eager or anxious to do this. So the thing is, maybe only 30 seconds, then for a week. Then after that, maybe a minute a day for another week, and each week double the amount of time. Maybe by the end of 6 months, you'll be able to speak like that for 8 hours. Maybe it'll take a year to do it all the time. But in the course of 2 or 3 months, you should be able to pull up enough voice to say a few sentences to somebody and pass just fine with your voice on the phone, or if you're out in public as a cross-dresser. And if you're a professional transsexual, you can do it within maybe 6 months. The longer you do it, the louder you're able to get, the more you're able to project your voice. You can start singing again, but that's going to take a few years to do it in this voice, although in the meantime you can still sing in the old voice if you want. It has a lot of advantages because it's not permanent, and instead of having to surgically go in and try to alter your voice with mixed results that sometimes not a lot of people I've heard have ever sounded very good, and it's very expensive and it's dangerous and you might lose your voice altogether. This way, as long as you don't get over anxious, you can train it and practice a little bit. The hard part is finding how to do it in the first place because you've forgotten how. Yes?
You might also want to mention that if they smoke, they stand a good chance of not being able to achieve what you've been able to achieve.
That's true too.
So there are things where you can abuse your throat, and unless you give up smoking, you're just not going to be able to attain those resonant highs like you can.
This is true. This is true. Now, also if you've done the opposite, if you've been a singer, especially high harmony and rock singing, you've trained your voice to get some of those notes without even realizing it. And if you've done cartoon voices for fun or profit, you might also be able to do it. If you slip into character voices for fun with friends, you might already have that available. It's not really as hard as you think. I'm going to be having a seminar hopefully here in Burbank in the next few months, a one-day seminar on voice. It'll probably cost about $99, and you'll have the opportunity to hear a more complete talk on developing a female voice, and then have workshops that you can get involved with personal help from Teresa, myself, and others who we may have along to coach you on how to do this, rather than just trying to use a tape. But the tape and the CD, they work pretty well. So, you know, the real key is you want to make sure that the top doesn't vibrate and the bottom does. And you can do that in many different ways, but that's what you've got to find, and use your fingers. The other added advantage is if you have a slightly larger Adam's apple, every time that you're using this, it's pulling in the top part, which is the part that sticks out the most. So you can also maybe avoid getting a tracheal shave, because you end up having your muscles get used to pulling that back, and its normal relaxed position starts to move back, and your Adam's apple actually goes down a little. I've been using this voice for 10 years now and had no problems or physical problems with it at all. And a number of hospitals are using it in their transgender training programs around the world. So the key is, let's all sing like the transsexuals sing. Speak, 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 speak. Woof!